on air. Are we
Oh, we're on
on?
there.
Are we on the air now?
We are.
That's my hook. Is that every time I ask after it turns yellow?
Yeah, you are doing that intentionally, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, good.
sometimes I'm not paying attention, but on purpose so that there's a higher risk that I will do it. So.
Right.
Okay.
So, welcome to SuggestCast,
That's my
episode
line.
19. Well, go
Oh no,
ahead.
it's your line. That's right.
Okay, well, now you go.
I'm your host. No, I don't introduce myself. We have with us, I don't know Barry's last name or his real name. We've
Biovas.
got Barry, who has too many names. Say hi.
Power.
We have Hopscotch Heaton over here.
VO6.
Yo!
We have the Raptor, Matt the Raptor Smith. Say hello, Matt.
Hi.
Matt's microphone's not working. That's a standard feature of Matt's participation.
I heard him. He said hi.
Here, I actually lost connection and I was trying to join on my phone, but it reconnected all on its own. It started screaming at me from the speakers.
And then we have Vincent Def Leopard Watkins. Vincent, say hello.
Hello.
Vincent, did you sew your hair?
It did this on its own. I haven't done anything to my hair
Like
yet
it
today.
developed a new part that it didn't used to have?
Well, this is my hair kind of on its own parts naturally down the middle, but that's not the way I wear it. So this is just what happens when I don't do anything to my hair.
Interesting. So, we got 5 things to get through. Let's get crack-a-lackin'.
Okay, well, first of all, for our listeners, the 5 suggestions we'll be discussing today are reload the Internet Archive, some Mario speedrun and then a write-up about it, the webcomic It Hurts, the album State Songs by John Linnell, and the first episode of Seinfeld. And, does anyone have a preference about which one we tackle first?
Let's do those in order that
All
you
right.
just said.
So, first of all, reload the Internet Archive. I did this one. Who else did?
I did it.
I did it.
I went to the Internet Wayback Machine. Was that the correct website to go to?
Yeah.
Fair enough, yes.
I hit reload, and this was like 3 weeks ago when it was suggested. So, from what I remember, it's got this bar that scrolls across the screen that shows every website that's been archived in real time. Is that correct?
That's not what happened to me, but I may have done it wrong.
Yeah, I didn't see that either, but
I
I'll
did
get
it.
into my experiences in turn.
Yeah, Matt, what happened to you sounds way more interesting than what happened to me.
Matt, tell us more about what happened for you.
It was just the same page.
And what did you get out of the experience?
I saw the same page twice.
Okay, that's interesting, because for me it was somewhat different. When I reload, well, first of all, I should start with the initial load of the page in this story.
Oh my god.
So I've been to archive.org many times before, but usually I just go there, I type in the URL, I look at an old version of it. I don't think I've ever looked around on the front page very much. And, you know, below the thing where you type something in for the Wayback Machine, there are links to various selected pieces of media that they have. And I don't think I've clicked on those before. So when I was doing this, I would click on one, I'd reload, get a new assortment of things that I could go look at. Like, there's some playlist of, like, Irish metal music that was up there just as a record of that particular music scene. There's some old document that's now believed to be the work of Galileo. And I reload a couple times, not getting anything that I was really interested in, but then eventually it showed me this video of Tom Lehrer performing at a math lecture in 1997. I had not seen footage of Tom Lehrer performing before. He's very reclusive these days. He doesn't like to speak about like his musical career much.
Who's Tom?
Watching Tom Lehrer. He did
He wears
Bunch of-
pinstripes and things about politics.
much of like comedy songs, like early Dr. Demento days.
Don't put comedy in air quotes at least.
Oh, he's not
Like
the guy
Poisoning
that
Pigeons in the Park.
song with the rewritten lyrics, is he?
Ben?
Yeah, he does like you might have heard like the Masochism Tango or Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, or has that the Elements song to the tune of Modern Major General, that kind of thing.
What's the one that goes to the tune of Yankee Doodle?
I'm not sure.
I think they made fun of it on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you're thinking of a Tom Lehrer song.
No, I think they were making fun of Tom Lehrer on The Simpsons.
That's possible. Anyway, it was interesting seeing this material that I had not known about before of this performer, and it was interesting to get a look at some of the things that the Internet Archive does other than provide like really old caches of websites.
Have you gotten to reloading yet, or is this just the first time you loaded it?
No, that was reloading.
Okay.
I reloaded a few times, and eventually the Tom Lehrer thing came up.
Oh, so you did the request more than once.
Yeah, you could have. There wasn't a cap limit. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lewis, you hit reload exactly once then.
Yeah.
And what happened for you?
The page reloaded.
And did you see anything new there?
I didn't really look closely enough to care.
Oh, I think maybe you should have. I think you're missing out.
I mean,
There are changes.
yeah, I appreciate that. Lots of websites change slightly if you reload them.
You can never reload the same river twice.
Yeah, the Internet Archive does it a little bit different. It's they throw in the random.
Mm-hmm.
They I don't know if they do it right or they do it wrong. Once in a while, you'll come out with something that you won't get from search.
Vincent, you've been uncharacteristically silent. What are your thoughts on reloading the Internet Archive?
Yeah, loudmouth Vincent. Let's hear your opinion.
My experience were similar to Ben's, except I didn't play with it for nearly as long. I'd only gone to the Internet Archives to look for specific websites for specific reasons. I didn't know that they put stuff on the front page. I only clicked on one thing, though, and it was a compilation of television clips from the 1950s, or I think it was the 1950s. But I didn't even watch all the clips. What was interesting was the intro to the clips by the guy who made the montage, I guess, who put this intro at the beginning where he explains that he put together a montage of video clips from the 1950s. It's a completely unnecessary explanation because the description of the video tells you exactly what it is, and the guy looks like he's absolutely terrified to be in front of the camera, and stumbles and stutters and looks so nervous, and he actually apologizes for how nervous he acted in the description of the video, and I thought the intro was hilarious. The video was immediately boring because it was just people singing and dancing on 1950s TV shows. But it was interesting, I guess, to find out that there's stuff on the Internet Archive front page.
Yeah. Yeah, it is worth keeping in mind that they do a lot more than just the Wayback Machine. They do a lot of general historical archiving of media. It's a pretty important organization, really.
And you can pretty much upload anything on there that you would like to be public domain. There's a lot of live music. There's lots of bands where their manager is given the okay. Like if you want to go to a band and say, hey, I want to record those guys, if they have the okay, you can upload it and stuff like that. And of course, there's lots of stop motion Lego animations too. And those are all over there.
Oh, I didn't check those out.
But yeah, there's a whole world out there. But
All right, so it seems to me the real question for evaluating this as a suggestion is not whether we came across anything in particular of interest, but whether the process of reloading the Internet Archive was noteworthy itself.
it was either or, I think, and then of course I did it myself as an example because I haven't done it in a while, and I ended up with some sort of Victims of Pop. It's a collection of sounds dating from 1986 to 1993, ranging from beaten pots and pans to Commodore 64 synth, and it's like a bunch of random tracks. And since they're public domain, I can play a little snippet of the 38-second one. But yeah, I'm not going to spoil any more of it. It's a great album. We'll stick with that. That was kind of a 38-second interlude, and I've already. But yeah, that's what I've got. That's it.
All right.
I think it's time for thumbs up, thumbs down. Vincent gives it a thumbs down.
Yeah, this is a recommendation. This is not a suggestion.
Okay.
Whoa, bringing out the big guns.
Matt, what's your thumb?
I really support the Internet Archive. I've donated it to it before. I think it's a great organization. But I guess I give it a thumbs up.
God damn!
If you're looking for random content.
So I liked some of the content I got here, but I think I'm going to give this a thumbs down.
Because
I don't think that the experience of reloading it is that necessary to refer back to. I'm not sure I would suggest that to others.
Barry, thumbs up or thumbs down on your suggestion?
I think I'll give my own a thumbs up because I suggested it here, and I'd probably suggest it to other people in the future since it's an easy task and never know what.
It is easy.
Yeah.
It was low effort compared to some of the other suggestions we have here.
Yeah.
I'm going to abstain. No, I'm going to give it a thumbs down. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah. I was close to abstaining because I didn't give it a real college try, but then I remember that the reason I didn't give it a real college try was that it was reloading a web page, so thumbs down.
Right, so this was too much work for Lewis to really bother with.
That's right. That's going to be a theme for this evening. Too much work, or it was really annoying from the first minute I tried doing it.
All right. Well, then let's move on to the first episode of Seinfeld.
No, that wasn't the order that we're going in.
Let's move on to what was the next one?
Mario.
The next one that you said was the Mario.
Right. Okay, so Lewis, you suggested watching a video of a Mario speedrun and then reading some badly translated text about it from presumably the speedrunner.
Was it badly translated, or was it poorly authored in English in the first instance? You know what I mean? Like, did somebody translate this from Japanese, or did a Japanese-speaking person just try to write something in English?
I believe it was machine translated from Japanese.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, this is my vague memory, but, because some of it looks like untranslated Japanese just got left in there in a couple of places.
Okay.
But I guess that could have just been... I had been assuming it was machine-translated Japanese, but I don't know for sure.
All right. And the idea with, is it's someone doing a tool-assisted speed run, but apparently it wasn't known to the viewers that it was a tool-assisted speed run. Some people found out later that it was tool-assisted and were unhappy, felt they'd been tricked or let down or something. And so the creator of the tool-assisted speedrun was apologizing for the confusion, something like that, right?
That is the narrative that I took away from it.
Watching
Yeah.
that video, it's amazing to me that anyone could watch that and think that it was not tool-assisted.
I thought it was legit.
You thought it was not tool-assisted?
Yeah,
I thought it was not. I thought it was not because later on I looked at the tool-assisted speedrun archive and they linked, to an authentic one that was even better than that one, and it had a little picture. It had him firing it up and everything, and it had him playing it on the console and everything.
Sorry, when you say it was better, do you mean it was faster, or do you mean it was like they did the thing where they bounced off 100 cannonballs in a row to gain a bunch of lives?
They just did it more entertaining, and of course they did do it a little bit faster too.
Well,
But everybody has. I mean, they learned from that tool-assisted one, and they did even better.
So it's not that the speed was impressive to me about the speed run, so much as the ability to move in precisely the right way to bounce off of a sequence of cannonballs that haven't appeared yet.
Yeah. If it was speed,
he knew they were coming there.
Yeah, he knows what order they're going to fire in.
Yeah, that wasn't just chance.
Due to memory, those cannonballs are very similar each time you play through them.
It was pixel
you do it
perfect move after pixel perfect move. I don't know. I've never seen anything not tool assisted that's anything as hairbreadth accurate as that is repeatedly. And and there's
now the video I watched after that, of course, wasn't as impressive as the one before because I just watched 28 minutes of the one before, but there were a lot more tricks to it. If I had watched that one first and then watched the other one before that, people have been trying to master Super Mario Brothers 3 since the movie The Wiz, and even before that. So obviously, someone's going to get it. And
before
the Wizard came out before the video game.
Yeah.
That's the whole major element of it, because there was a subplot in the movie about how it was an unreleased video game.
Yeah.
So that's the speed run itself. Now about the document.
Right, so the document, which explains the tool-assisted nature by saying things like, when a mistake is saved and made before a dangerous place, it is touch called loading. So, yeah, this is...
Wait, Ben, you stopped reading too early. Could you read the next sentence?
If this movie is seen and game also becomes nice, it comes to be able to do so far. I think I am sorry very much, so that the dream of the pure person who considered may be ruined. It should have written beforehand. Obviously meaning that this should have been written in the description of the video.
Yeah.
8W do not obtain and don't review in a hand in a zone. The frame out of which hand does not come is chosen and avoided.
Well, that's going to be about that bit in World 8 where...
Yeah.
No, I feel like you can piece together quite a bit of what is being said in this. Should be incoherent document.
Is that
right? This isn't complete nonsense.
We're not to the point where I tell you the point of the suggestion yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to...
You guys need to sort it out for yourselves first.
Right, so the main thing I got out of this was that, that sure is some bad translation.
Yeah, well, it would be just like Lewis to make fun of a foreigner for his poor English skills.
Yeah.
It was machine translation.
Lewis, is your Japanese any better than this?
No. Well, actually, machine translated Japanese probably is better, because I would be getting it translated now as opposed to 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what? This is sort of off topic. You know what would be an interesting game would be to have those kinds of direct machine translations from other languages into English and try to identify the original language based on the ungrammatical translation.
That would be
Like this-
interesting. Sometimes you
like-
can tell like if there's a word they leave untranslated in it.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. You'd have to vet it somehow, but there's something very Japanese about the mistranslation and stuff going on here. I think stuff like this is kind of interesting in that it pushes the boundaries of how far you can get from English grammar and syntax and still have things be understandable. Even get away from the real meaning of words and yet still understand somewhat what somebody's saying. But I don't know why it was suggested, I gotta say.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, though. Lewis, I do know that you've had a personal interest in this piece of text for some time, which makes me suspect that you may have suggested this partly because you like it and think it's good.
I think it's good at what? Like, what category of thing is it a good instance of, do you think I like?
Like, humorous thing you found online?
Okay, I see.
No, I'm not saying that you think this is one of the greatest short stories out there.
I think it's a fantastic apology. I'll say that. It's a fantastic apology.
The guy seems very sincere,
Yeah.
as far as I could tell. And I did enjoy watching his speedrun.
Even though it was tool assisted.
Yeah.
I prefer tool-assisted speedruns.
They
Why
both
is that? Because they're faster?
I guess they can be more interesting.
Sometimes they're super boring, though, like those Mega Man tool-assisted speedruns where they're all based on glitches that you could never produce and that don't even make any sense from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah.
You gun and jump at the
Really?
scene. At the
I think
right.
those are kind of entertaining.
Yeah, I've seen like Chrono Trigger tool-assisted speedruns where the bulk of the video is just switching back and forth between menus very quickly to glitch out the game. And it's interesting that works to accomplish things, but it
Okay,
isn't great to
well, to
watch.
clarify, the explanations of how those videos work are interesting.
That I agree with.
They're pretty. I mean, they're not so interesting. I would actually read them because it's just like gibberish to me. Or even if you do understand it, it's not stuff that means anything. But the level of detail and expertise involved in those endeavors is just incredible.
It's like appreciating craftsmanship.
Yeah.
It is. It's like the care that someone might put into, proving Fermat's last theorem or something like that. They put into shaving 5 seconds off the completion time for Castlevania 2.
Oh man, I was watching a Sonic Adventure Battle 2 speedrun, and the guy, like, he just sounded bored by while he was narrating it, like, as though he had somehow, like, tricked part of his mind into feeling like it was a thing he had to do. And so, like, he sounded like it was, like, a day job, but, like, there's no way he was getting paid to do this. So it was just, like, I don't know. It was just weird to hear this guy's tone of voice where he's like, yeah, and he just, like, sounded so unenthused about it. I was like, I would have assumed this is the sort of thing that only gets done as a passion project. But this guy was doing it like it was, like, taking out the garbage every week, whatever.
Yeah, if you do enough speedruns, it starts to become a chore.
Was he a partner or anything like that?
No, you wouldn't stop because you can always go faster.
Yeah.
You have to get perfect.
Okay. Is it time to say why I... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Barry.
He might be monetizing or something, so it might be boring. It might be his day job.
That's possible.
Depends on how many views he's got. He could be a partner.
That's true.
And
I have to look.
Yeah, you have to. He could be getting like $8 for that video, and he does like 5 more videos. I mean, that's what the monetizing. Yeah,
there are a lot of Sonic games out there.
Ben, now it's just reminding me of Tetsuo Milk's review of in Constellation Games of the Marxist analysis of the casual gaming stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that's getting a little off topic, though. I think we should get to why you suggested this.
Okay, so here's why I suggested it. Suggested. I was about to say recommended, but no, this wasn't meant as a recommendation.
We hate recommendations here.
I like how that's like a strike against thing. People are like, did you like... Ben, this is Ben's secret mission, is to make sure that we're only recommending things that the people who are watching them won't like. That's Ben.
Whether they like it or not is completely irrelevant to our mission.
No, but I think you treat it as a plus if they don't.
Well, it sort of is in that at least shows that they weren't recommending it, that they weren't suggesting it on the basis of quality.
Shut up. All right. Here's why I recommended it or suggested it.
Okay.
There are several phrases in here that I think are like... So one of the things that happens when you have machine translation, or sometimes people who are just translating themselves and don't have mastery of the language that they're translating into, is that you get what I find to be like fascinating and gripping turns of phrase that native speakers just would not come up with. And like the other thing that I can think of that does this, that did not seem like the correct suggestion, the other one that comes to mind when I want to like talk about that, is a song by the Russian band Tattoo called "All the Things She Said." And like if you read the lyrics, they're like you can't exactly pinpoint why they strike you as like not the sort of thing that a native English speaker would say, but they just strike you so quickly as like that's such a weird turn of phrase that like I wouldn't come up with because of the patterns I'm used to in language. And so here are the ones in this that are for me like just do that. And here I'll do a contrast. So like from the question which often exists first of all, which I assume is just like a supposed to be like frequently asked questions. I'm pretty sure that that's what that phrase was that was getting translated. That's just like didn't get translated successfully. But then if you go to the part that I made Ben read, I think I am sorry very much, so that the dream of the pure person who considered may be ruined, and the phrase dream of the pure person, like, I don't know. I just like that phrase, not because it's funny, but because like it's just not a phrase I feel like people would come up with. Maybe because it's the definite article, I don't know. The other ones that are in that category are, if you go down to, it is just before the question mark block of a tank 1 and the spanner is hit, which I assume is somebody asking like, hey, didn't you get hit by one of the things thrown out of the tank? I hear that emulator movie is recording only operation and it thinks it can understand. I don't know what that means exactly. But then he says, it has not hit, although it is suspicious. A miracle did not hit. And, like, no native English speaker would ever produce a miracle did not hit. But, like, I just think it's a fantastic phrase. And let's see, what was the other one that I really liked?
At the very end?
I'm sorry to be a postscript, the comment of after and a maker. I do like that. No, there was also a wish by wanting to see Mario who moves an idea. These are just phrases that I feel like the only way you can get such phrases into existence is by people like working in a like putting something into a language they don't fully understand, but like it's a legitimately great phrase. So that's what I think like in terms of like what is it a reference point for? It's a reference point for the sort of like could not plan it, accidental, brilliant kinds of things.
All right, so you were suggesting this as an example of kind of an Oulipo-style mechanization of language.
A what?
Like the Oulipo,
the
French writers who would use weird constraints or like write a book of sonnets where you could turn over flaps and reveal different lines to combine to make a sonnet.
No, I think this is different. This is like organic in a way that those aren't.
You'll have to repeat that term for me later, though, because that was a cool term.
Like
this is like people who write poems by picking words out of a hat. Just get combinations that you wouldn't come up with if you were just writing normally.
Yeah, but so I think what's important about this is both the intense constraints and the ones who do it like let fate decide what the poem should be style. Those are both contrived in a way that this is not. Right? Like those, like insofar as they do that, it's because the person was trying to come up with something like weird or clever. And this has an organicness to it that I think you can't, I don't know. Maybe you could recreate it by doing some process like that, but I don't think that's the right way to do it. The right way to do it is just to have people who are honestly trying to communicate in a language they don't really understand. And then you get these like sort of wonderful spandrels out of it. That's my shtick.
And so you like the outsider art aspect of it.
That's not how I would phrase it at all.
Well, to the extent that this is art, it's not an art that is being intended by the creator.
Fair enough. So let me just say one thing. Regardless of whether you guys thumb up or thumb down, I think it's fair to say that this was in fact a suggestion and not a recommendation.
Granted.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you can give me the thumbs down and that you don't think it was worthwhile. Barry, where is your thumb on this one?
A thumbs up, because like any opportunity to watch a speed run, tool assisted or not, definitely the opportunity. And then I did kind of skim over the document after, because I was told that something was with the document. It didn't really click to me. I looked at a paste bin and saw a bunch of brackets, but you know when all of y'all described it, it just popped, and that just makes that speed run even better than whatever it was.
All right. So thumbs up. I like Vincent's facial expressions when people explain their votes, because I feel like he's like the judge who's like explaining to the jury the basis, and then the jury comes out and they're like, "Oh, we voted guilty because we don't like his face." Vincent's like, "No, you would need to decide based on like the law." And people are like, "That's not. We have authority as the jury. We can vote however we want. Not guilty because it's Tuesday." All right, Ben, thumbs up or thumbs down?
All right, well, first of all, I want to say that I don't think watching the video is really necessary to this suggestion. You suggested it.
It gives it context.
Basically entirely based on the contents of that text part.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's about a speed run is enough.
Okay. So I think if you go back and check the text of when I suggested it 4 or 5 weeks ago or whatever, I think I did start by recommending the text and then included it like as an afterthought that you might to watch the speed run. So like it's true that my official suggestion was to do both, but I think it's because I wasn't sure how much context one would need to really know what was going on with the document. You might be right that I could have gotten as much out of it by just saying there was this tool-assisted speed run, people didn't know it was tool-assisted, this document was released later by the person who did the speed run.
All right, well...
Now?
All right, I'm going to give this a thumbs up, because I think having an example of this sort of interesting language emerging from accidental bad translation is useful. I don't think we're really hurting for examples of that, though. I think there's probably a lot you could find out there in this vein. But this is a good one. I have the link to the paste bin handy, so it's an easy example for me to use with people. So I could very well see myself citing this in a conversation with somebody. Thumbs up.
I want to be clear. I think it's important to note, like, my interest in this is very different from like what goes on the website, like English.com, where it's just like ha ha ha.
Oh yeah, I don't think any of us appreciate this just as an opportunity to make fun of foreigners.
Just one particular foreigner, Ben.
I have a lot of respect for this one particular foreigner. He did a good Mario run.
All right, Matt. He had to use tools though, so I don't know how impressed I am.
Well, he knew how to use those tools, and I don't.
I mean, I think I could do pretty well at Mario 3 at 1/30th speed if I had the patience to do it.
And it was in 2006 before everybody else caught up, and
that's true.
They learned from it.
All right, Matt. Where's your thumb on this one?
I guess I have to give it a thumbs down because I can't really see referencing any of these I mean, I agree with the concept, but I don't really see anything in here that's really worth repeating.
All right.
I'm a pure person.
Vincent?
Vincent?
I'm going to give it a thumbs down because I think the concept is noteworthy, but there's already, a almost cliche reference base for that, which is Zero Wing. All your base are belong to us is not just I'll laugh at the bad translation line. That's a great line. All your base are belong to us, and there's so much in there that's great. You have no chance to survive. Make your time. I love that. Make your time.
Wait.
That's true, and everybody's already familiar with that, so you don't really need...
Not that you can argue with people's thumb ratings, but just Vincent, to explain why I think Zero Wing is not the ideal example of this to use if you're trying to just explain the concept. I think the connotations and cultural memification, especially since All Your Base was like virtually one of the first major memes, like it'd be very hard to use Zero Wing to get someone onto this concept without having to do a lot of work to like de-distract them from like the music video and the like memification that happened to it.
In the bait.
I don't think
I'm
so.
not sure it would.
I mean, it would be like if there was something really interesting going on with like the syntax in Hamlet, and like in order to explain to people that that's what you want to talk about in Hamlet, you'd always have to explain to them like, no, we're not worried about the plot. Just like look at the way the commas are spaced out. Like Hamlet's a bad thing to reference for that because everybody has too much else going on with Hamlet in their minds.
I think that would be a fine thing to do with Hamlet.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that the commas are spaced out in an interesting way.
No, I mean, if that were an odd feature of commas in it. Like, I could certainly reference aspects of Hamlet other than, like, the fact that it has weird stuff with ghosts.
Okay, well, I'm going to say this.
That being the main thing people know Hamlet for.
This isn't my official suggestion, but I want you guys to take two different people in your lives and try and explain this concept to them once using All Your Base and once using selected text from this document and see which one is more successful.
Okay, I will try that.
All right. That's not my
Anyone I'm talking to is not going to be familiar with All Your Base or belong to us.
Really?
Okay, even my mom's seen that. Come on.
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought of Zero Wing as an example of this, but now that that's been brought up, I'm revising my thumb to down.
What? No, you're not allowed to. You already put a thumb.
Well, this is my other thumb.
Okay.
Wait, we have two thumbs!
You know another line I love from Zero Wing is that for great justice, take off every zig. When it gets to the point in the song where it says that, I actually tear up a little bit. Honestly, I feel like that's right. He is gonna take off every zig for great justice.
I like you have no chance to survive, make your time. I think that's my favorite part of it.
I used the line "Make your time" in Ida Fusicon without having any real purpose to reference Zero Wing, just because I like the phrase. Yeah, that's a good one. But anyway, that's our votes. Oh, something that changed when you were gone, I think, is that we now require unanimous thumbs up for a suggestion to become official.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good to know. That gives me a lot more power if I go last and everybody else liked something.
Yeah, it's just like the Declaration of Independence.
In the movie 1776, at least, yeah.
Yes, I'd suggest it, but nah, I'm not going to suggest an old school movie like that. That would sound like a recommendation.
Okay, what's next?
All right. So next is Vincent's suggestion: the webcomic "It Hurts."
Wait, who suggested Seinfeld?
Matt, the Raptor Smith.
Oh, that makes sense. Matt said that he was watching the early seasons of Seinfeld.
All right.
Okay.
So who here has read "It Hurts"? I have.
I have.
I read like 1.5 strips.
What? Okay, that's not nearly enough.
Fair enough.
I've read a couple, but...
See, you had plenty of time to read it.
I was watching an episode of Gilmore Girls.
Well, you should have saved that for after suggestions. Okay, you came into the Hangout and asked us to tell you suggestions that you could complete in that time, and then we gave you some, and instead you watched Gilmore Girls?
I started. hang on.
He wasn't going to read 100
started-
scripts the time it took him to watch an episode of Gilmore Girls.
Ben, I started listening to that album you recommended, and
We'll
it made
get
me
to that album.
I don't want to hate you, so I stopped, and then if I wasn't going to listen to that album, I figured I'd watch an episode of Gilmore Girls.
So, okay, so you basically didn't read It Hurts. Barry, did you read It Hurts?
I've skimmed through a little bit, but
Alright, so 3 of us have read this.
so that means that that I have to abstain from my choice here, which doesn't affect the unanimous decision, if that's fair.
Right.
Because New York always abstained courteously.
Matt, you did finish reading up? It
Wait,
Hurts?
Barry, did you watch
I did
1776 recently, or why are you so lacing things with 1776 references?
Because
that.
someone mentioned unanimous, and remember that John Hancock said,
No, I know.
says
You are successfully referencing it. I'm wondering, like, if you watched it recently, why are you
I
so...
haven't watched it in like probably like a couple months or something. Maybe even like.
That makes it sound like
Couple-
every month or so.
No, I used to watch it every year, and like every 1776, of course.
Man, somebody should suggest that for SuggestCast.
What? Watch 1776 every year?
No, we talk about it.
But yeah.
You are on the way to destruction.
We are. Okay, It Hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it hurts me that we'll be talking about this with spoilers and ruining it for the people who didn't bother reading it.
In fairness, when you told me how much I'd have to read, the odds of my reading that many of them before the thing was pretty low.
You
If
could
you
have
want
done
to
it.
delay, I'll do it for next week if you want to delay.
The first half of the strip moves really quick.
Yeah,
They're very short.
It is not a long read.
It does get longer
Well,
as
yeah.
it goes on.
Well,
The point is,
And there's one particular long strip that I think we'll have a lot to say about.
Okay,
if
my
you
point
feel
is-
that the both of us are able to, if you really feel like we should read it, I mean, we can postpone it, for the next one.
that's
Vincent, this was your suggestion.
Yes.
So,
True.
should we delay this discussion so that Lewis and Barry can actually read this thing?
I commit that I will read it for next week if you delay. But
Okay.
don't feel like you need to delay on my account.
Let's go ahead and delay because we've got a couple more to discuss tonight anyway, so we can kick it off until next week.
All right. So the next one in this order is state songs.
Oh wait, I thought we were doing Seinfeld. When did we skip that? What happened?
Seinfeld is 5th in this list.
Okay.
I mean, the order is arbitrary. We can do Seinfeld next.
No, that's fine. Let's talk about the state songs.
All right. Who here listened?
What?
Who here listened to it?
I did.
I listened to part of it.
I actually thought it was, listen to all the state songs, like Sweet Georgia Brown and Rainy Night.
Well, that's
So you say that like
a good thing to do too.
You say that like there wasn't a link.
And Rainy Night in Georgia. And I was like, what?
Barry, you're saying this like there wasn't a link provided, as though you had to suss out what this suggestion was in a sea of mystery. But Ben just put a link somewhere that you could have clicked on.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that.
Every song has the name of a state in it.
This is really hard because when I moved to California, I made what I called my California blend. It was like a mix of all the songs that mention California or specific cities in California in the title or prominently in the lyrics. There were like 400 tracks on this mix, and that's just California. So like,
To be fair, California is one of the better states. And one thing I noticed about this album is that it's all about the shittiest states.
hang on, it had a shitty song about Illinois, but Illinois is not a shitty state.
Oh, Illinois is the shittiest state.
We definitely don't have time to get into an argument about Illinois.
Yeah,
Hang on.
especially children.
Vincent, I have one word to say to you. Indiana, your argument is invalid.
Ben said we can't talk anymore, so.
Okay.
Lewis, on your California mix, did you have the song Palo Alto by Radiohead?
I did.
Oh, okay. All right. You made a complete listing then. That was my spot check.
Even
Yeah.
California Dreaming.
Ben, can I recommend, though, that you might want to try a spot check of something that you didn't recommend to me at the time to put on the list?
Did you?
Because
Oh.
I posted on LiveJournal, I want to make this mix, and you, among several other people, were the ones contributing what songs should go on it. So it is not surprising that the song... I also put California Desert Party at your suggestion.
What about California Dreaming by the Mamas and the Papas?
Yeah, I had that.
Oh, wow. That's good. That's
Oh,
a good
did you have Hotel California?
What?
I said you have Hotel California?
I did? I did have...
I said it with such a tone as to suggest you might not have thought of that one.
Yeah.
Did you
It's
have
pretty
the
obscure.
Creedence Clearwater Revival song Lodi?
Is that about California?
Yeah, it's about the city Lodi.
Oh. I may or may not have. I'd have to go back and check.
So moving on to this suggestion.
I didn't really hate the album. I was kidding about that. I didn't enjoy it very much. There were a few songs on there that were kind of sounded like songs. I don't know. I mean, to me, it wasn't too different from They Might Be Giants, and They Might Be Giants. I want to like them so much, and like if you told me, like, hey, listen, there's a They Might Be Giants song on the radio, I'd be like, all right, let's listen to it. But then I would hate it. And I can't figure out why there's this appeal to them. Like, well, it's almost like they're the musical version of John Candy. Like, I get this feeling like I should like them, like they do have talent and something to contribute, but anytime you actually look at anything they've done, it's terrible. Anyway, this.
Wait, have you listened to the album Flood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why would you ask about Flood? Like that's some unappreciated gem.
No, because,
And that's
Yeah,
because there's a lot of They Might Be Giants that I can't connect to in the way that Vincent was just describing. And it's probably
It has good songs on it.
first heard it.
What about John Henry?
What?
yeah. John Henry is my favorite They Might Be Giants album.
Mine too.
I think my favorite They Might Be Giants song is Don't Let's Start, which is off of...
That's from their first album, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
yeah.
so.
Pretty early.
It's a good one.
All right, but was there something before Ben reveals it? Was there something interesting about this album? Something you think maybe we were supposed to listen to it for?
Wait,
You
so I'll
asking
tell you
me?
the second track. I got something out of the transition between the first and the second track, and then got angry again at the third track. Because the first track, I was like, what kind of bullshit carnival music is this that I'm going to be listening to a whole album of? And then the second track was like an actual song. And I was
Yeah.
like,
The
ridiculous.
that
the
carnival
only one
music.
here that isn't about a particular state. Instead, it's about the album project as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it, but I was like, okay, at least if it's songs, like with lyrics and like not carnival music, it'll be a thing. And then the next one started, and it was carnival music again, and then lyrics came in, but like they didn't do anything to override that it was carnival music. That's when I gave up on the album.
You should have listened to the fourth one. That's my favorite.
Wow.
Is it carnival music, Ben?
No.
I think the carnival music was really what made it was more some of the more enjoyable parts of it for me. But I want to say I really like the idea of this album in that it's, you know, on the outside supposed to be a song about states of the United States, but in reality, in execution, it has nothing to do with the states, only a name or totally fraudulent claims about the states with no respect for the culture of the state or, you know, reality in any way.
And that fourth track was not doing it for me. I just gave it a quick listen.
I think
Okay.
there might be something to what Matt's saying here. The idea of you've got a concept album where the concept is declared right there up front, and then the whole album is just kind of like pissing all over that concept.
But you know what? You know what feels to me like a better execution of that sort of concept trolling is like that Introduction to Milwaukee video. Like that's a better.
This is my Milwaukee.
But yeah, it claims it's gonna be like a guide to Milwaukee, but then it's not at all giving you actual facts about Milwaukee.
And then it turns into an anime. But that was an alternate reality game.
Or that British show where they lie about calcium.
Oh,
What?
All around.
Look
you.
around you.
Oh, look around you.
Look around. Whatever. So like, if the interesting part was the Andy Kaufman-esque, like, oh, you thought you were signing up for one thing, but really it was a different thing. I feel like there's better examples of that.
It's not that exactly. It's not that, like, if the cover had said state songs and then it had just been a bunch of songs about his ex-girlfriends, then it would have been that, like the old switcheroo. But it is songs about states, but it's so deliberately badly implemented that it's hard not to say, why is this a song about a state? Like, it seems like he wrote a completely different song and then stuck in the name of the state in some place where it should have been somebody's name or something.
Well, like one's about how Montana is a leg. That had to be about Montana.
Is it a lag?
Yeah, there's this. The Montana song is all about realizing that Montana was a leg.
You know, I interviewed They Might Be Giants one time
I did not know that.
for the college newspaper.
Did you tell him how...
You probably copy edited that, actually.
Wait, I was on the college newspaper with you. How do I not know about this?
I don't know. It might have been before you were.
Oh, right. So you're ahead.
So I did a phone interview. I didn't interview them in person.
Lost interest.
He was not a very good interviewer, so it was not a good interview
Well,
because I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah.
I'm sure they had worse interviews, so I think you're
They
covered.
had worse interviews, but this interview was not a worthwhile way for either of them or me to spend our time, except that I could then say that I talked to them a bit about whatever album had come out at the time that they were doing a tour for. OK Go was an opening for them.
Tunes?
What?
I said, did you talk to him about Tiny Toons?
I did not. I did ask them about an ad that they had a promotional like image that had a bunch of children holding up signs that say "We hate They Might Be Giants," and I asked them whether that was because they felt like some of their earlier albums had given them like a reputation for being kids' music, and they acted like they had no idea why I would say that. That
That was from the John Henry album art.
yeah, that seems right.
That makes sense. So you got something out of there, and so do we on this 10/12/2014.
And we all got a chuckle.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually took notes for this
Time to
album.
reveal your.
Wait, Matt, you're saying you took notes?
Yeah, they're not super complete, but I did attempt to make notes. I wrote down exactly the first thing that Vincent said is that it sounds exactly like a They Might Be Giants album. That I wrote for South Carolina, what the hell is he even singing? I like the song Idaho. The song about Montana made me believe that Montana was a leg. And I believe that Pennsylvania actually started singing. And isn't the song about Utah really insulting to Utah?
Yeah.
I forgot what it was. I didn't write it down. I just wrote pretty big fuck you to Utah, but I don't remember the words for it.
Just like, I forget you. I forget you.
Yeah,
I
because
forget
it's forgettable.
Utah.
Man, it totally works.
Yeah.
That's blowing my mind there, Matt.
Yeah.
You know what I think the Montana thing is about? It's a guy who's in a hospital singing it, right?
Yeah.
If you look at Montana, it could be like a leg. It's like got straight lines and then like all this goofy curved stuff at the end. If
Right,
the guy
that's
was
what
in
end of it
hospital,
is to the
because
west.
leg torn or blown off or something, and he's looking at his stump of a leg, and then he's realizing, oh, now I get it, Montana's a leg.
Maybe he's in the hospital for, like, you know, some sort of other issues that would lead him to say that Montana's a leg. Like,
Yeah,
like a mental
just
health
crazy.
issue instead of a leg injury.
Or he's just on painkillers, and it's making him say crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot more forgiving than what I would have said. But
Let me rephrase what I was saying about the concept. Here's what it's like. It's like this guy has been forced to make a concept album, and he is grudgingly complying with the letter of the law concerning what the concept is. That's how I would describe it. Like,
Okay.
I have one song where he just like says like la 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 in the name of the state.
yeah, that's the Pennsylvania one.
Okay.
All right, Ben, why did you recommend this?
All right, well, you guys actually basically got it. That I really like the disconnect between the premise of writing state songs with. John Linnell did this with a bit of a hope that these would actually be adopted as the state's official songs.
That's not true. That's
Yeah.
not have any hope that that would happen, because he's not insane.
He said after the fact, I don't think that the songs are liable to be adopted as the state anthems of the actual state, sadly. I was thinking initially that that might be a nice thing, but thinking about it, I think songs like Oregon is Bad are not likely to go down very well in Oregon. He did approach this project thinking it might be nice if that happened. I don't think it was his primary goal.
Ben, I think you're doing a bad job of reading sarcasm there. Like, or not sarcasm, but irony? I don't know. Yeah, it's not clear to me that he meant that literally, that he actually thought that that was going to happen.
I'm not saying he thought it would happen. I'm saying he had thought it would be nice if it did happen.
Okay.
But then he wrote these songs like saying that Iowa is a witch. The Arkansas one, which is all about a ship built in the exact size and shape of Arkansas, replacing the state of Arkansas, which sank.
Is that like a Werner Herzog documentary on that song? I would watch that documentary, where he actually builds such a boat. Get into the mindset of somebody who wrote a song about it.
I would watch that too.
Okay. So
Yeah, so I suggested this based on the idea of this guy making this concept album about state songs, making these bizarre songs that don't really have anything to do with the states. And I feel like as the album, it kind of loses what connection it does have to the state theming. Like the last one, Nevada, that song is like 8 minutes long, but only the first minute or so is actual music. After that, it's basically just dead air and background noises. I just found this to be a very strange and humorous album as an album. Vivi mentioned it sounding very much like a They Might Be Giants album. For me, there are a few songs like that, and a lot of others that really don't fit the They Might Be Giants style. Like South Carolina and West Virginia and Montana, those could all be They Might Be Giant songs. Most of the rest I don't think could at all.
okay, I think it's thumb time. What?
Nothing. Let's proceed with thumb time.
Are there rules now that it has to be unanimous? Are there rules such
Yeah.
that you have to have participated to a certain extent in order to vote, or no?
I don't think so. I mean,
If you have no idea what the thing is like, you should probably abstain.
No, because I could tell from the conversation. First off, I have an idea of what this is like because I
Well,
listened.
Lewis, you've heard this before a few years ago.
How long did it take me to make you turn it off that time?
Oh, we listened. Well, no, we skipped through a couple of the tracks.
Really? I
Yeah.
listened to the whole thing?
Yeah.
Why did you say before that this is further than I made it before last time?
No, I said you made it further last time.
Oh, I thought you said getting 3 seconds in and hating it was making it further than last time.
No,
No, turn that bullshit off immediately. Okay. So, Barry, thumb, up or down?
Well, I think the idea, the concept is it's good enough to give it a thumbs up.
Okay. Thumbs up or down?
I'd give it a thumbs up.
Ben?
I'll give it a thumbs up.
Vincent?
I would give it a thumbs up. If I encountered another, I can't think of anything else that would meet the criteria at this point that I would describe like it. But if I encountered another concept album that seemed to detest its own concepts as much, I probably would refer back to this. I'll give it a thumbs up.
Okay. I can't bring myself to give it a thumbs up, but I'm going to abstain so as not to interfere.
Oh my God! No.
What?
I know they're not supposed to be good, but our suggestions are just the worst shit on earth.
What?
Well, this one was unanimous for the first time this episode.
All right.
I need a thumbs down, and is that what happened? Is that you were hoping that I would sink this ship?
Oh, I couldn't hear what you said.
He was asking if you were hoping that he would thumbs down it.
No, it's not like I'm blaming anybody. I mean, I think it could be a suggestion. It just sometimes strikes me that if someone were following along and taking our suggestions, it's never anything that anyone should actually enjoy.
And I stand by South Carolina being very enjoyable.
And I stand behind reloading the archive too.
So what was the one where you almost quit SuggestCast because you couldn't believe that it got suggested?
Oh no! Night Vale.
That's the one. You were so upset, even though you voted thumbs up on it.
Liz, you missed him being upset over Triangle of Robert a couple episodes ago.
Oh, but that was good. Oh, okay. So let's talk about Seinfeld.
Specifically, the first episode of Seinfeld.
Oh, God, the whole first season is just crap.
Oh, not the whole first season, but
What's a good episode in the first season?
well, the first season was only like 4 episodes, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they were all bad.
It's only 4? Huh.
It was really short. They did like a half season, or not even a half season. They did like very little for the first season before they ordered a full season.
Let's see. There are 5 episodes in the first season.
And
Where
that's
are
counting
they?
the pilot, which I think was aired sometime before the rest. Isn't that right?
Good news, it's good news, bad news. Male unbonding. What's next?
So there's there's the one where the girl, you can't tell if she's if they're like flirty or not.
Yeah, well, that's the one we're talking about tonight.
Right. Then there's the one where Jerry wants to get somebody's number, but he doesn't want to get it from Elaine because he doesn't like to talk about other women with her. Just bizarre early character establishment that gets completely undermined later.
Yeah, that one's called the stakeout. The next one's the robbery. That's where his apartment gets robbed, right?
Yeah.
Because Kramer doesn't lock the door. Stakeout. The robbery is the next one. The apartment.
Then the next one is male unbonding.
No, wait a minute. That's not the right order.
I'm telling you the number in series. I'm telling you the.
Well, there's different ways of ordering the episodes. It's the thing.
But this is both air. This is original air date order. Oh, but it's not production code order.
Right. Production code order, I think Mail on Bonding comes before those others.
Mail on Bonding.
Let's look this up.
I'm looking at it.
No, you know what we should do is abandon this line of conversation because it has nothing to do with this who did it.
That is actually what we should do, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're talking about is good news, bad news. Girls coming to stay with
I want to
Jerry.
go with a laundromat. Like, a large portion of this episode takes place in a laundromat, right?
There's like one scene in the laundromat.
Yeah, George, Jerry.
Yeah, it starts out in a restaurant that's not the one they're usually in.
And they're wearing softball
You
uniforms,
can't overdry.
right?
You can't overdry. Are you getting this, everyone?
And they're wearing softball uniforms, right?
Just Jerry.
Yeah.
This is a ridiculous episode of television.
Jason Alexander is great, and he's already perfectly on character.
No, are you
Actor.
Yeah, it's great.
No, he's just doing Woody Allen in this episode. Later on, he's doing Larry David.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember this episode pretty well. I didn't watch it recently, but I watched all of Seinfeld a few years ago, and I remember this episode because I remember being like, how did this show make it past this episode?
Well, the pilot was originally rejected by the network. They then took another pass at later and picked it up.
It is sensible that the pilot, like, that episode is not a good way to sell this series. Because the series didn't know what it was doing until season 2, like the Chinese restaurant or the parking lot episode.
I don't know. I think you can see a lot of potential in this episode. And remember, a big part of the hook here was integrating the stand-up into the sitcom.
Yeah, that's
Which
always
is what Seinfeld ended up mainly being known for, but like in this episode they have like 4 scenes that are just Jerry doing his stand-up. And one thing that I found a little jarring, because it doesn't happen later on, is there were a lot of shots of the audience, like
Oh man, that's
Jerry's
exactly what I wrote
perspective
down.
on scene.
That's what I wrote down in my notes.
Like, I mean, the original pitch wasn't a show about nothing so much as a show about like where stand-up comedians get their ideas.
right. Here's what I'm going to say, though. The thing that makes me dislike this episode so much is that the episode has a punchline. Like, there is one plot that is going on. That plot culminates in a punchline, and then there's like a freeze frame, and you might as well put a slide whistle there. Like,
Whoops, she's engaged.
woo! Yeah. Like, it's like the clumsiest, crappiest comedy. That idea of like the whole episode, he's like, oh, is she engaged? Is she not? And then like the punchline is just you find out she is seeing somebody else. Right, like
The idea of a sitcom episode having just a single plot line going on in it was the standard then.
oh yeah.
I
But
mean,
usually the sitcom doesn't have the final line before the freeze frame and credits be basically a shitty punchline to a dumb joke.
But
At
usually,
the very least, Balky and Larry will do the dance of joy before the episode ends, and that's what's funny. And it's like at least a second joke in the episode. Foreigners are funny is the second joke, I guess. Anyways,
this is just Laugh at Foreigners Day on SuggestCast.
It is apparently. So that is what sticks with me about that episode. Is I was like, oh my god, I'm so glad that this did not remain the format of this show.
I don't think that format's the problem, though. If they had the jokes that they had later on, I mean, they did all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't. I mean, sitting in one scene for the entire episode, or the backwards episode's not a good example because that wasn't very good. But they played around with the format of sitcoms, and it worked because it was always a funny show. If they had funny jokes throughout, or if this had been clever or witty, they could have done it. They could have had one storyline go all the way through, and then the end reveal. I actually think that's not bad. After he's made this agreement to go on this 8-hour boat trip with her, and because he's convinced that, okay, there's something romantic going on here, then he finds out she's engaged. I don't think that's too bad. It's more something that would happen to George later on than Jerry. Like, I think that's workable, but it's just the show as a whole is not that funny.
It's also, here's the thing. It's also, Seinfeld is at its best when it is motivated by how awful the protagonists are.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think comes out, like, so most people view the Chinese restaurant episode as as like a turning point in the show, where it like found what it was doing. And part of that is because like they are waiting for a table, and one of the things they do is make a bet about like stealing somebody else's food or blowing out, I think, a blind person's birthday candles. Like, the part of what they did was they were like playing around with the format of like let's do a bottle episode, but also they were like, let's do a bottle episode, and P.S. these are horrible people.
Oh, they weren't that horrible in the Chinese restaurant episode. I don't think that really.
You blew out somebody's candles.
I don't think they blew out any blind person's candles. I don't think you're thinking
Am I
of.
misremembering?
Yeah, I don't remember that bit.
kind
But
of
Lewis, really, if the
fantasy.
person is blind, does it matter if they blow out the candles?
Yes. Don't be horrible.
Coming off the candles. But I think it's more this. I think the show got better the less it was like Jerry's stand-up act. Jerry Seinfeld is and was an immensely popular stand-up comedian, but he's not like a
An actor?
No, he's not like a clever comedian or he's kind of like the lowest common denominator comedian, very popular, but it's not really intriguing stuff. It's not.
Do you remember the episode where later on George is pretending to be an architect? And
That episode, yes.
I think that's the one. And he is pretending to meet Jerry, like that they haven't known each other, so that he can like have a conversation about some.
The race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Jerry says something that's like condescending to George, and George is like, so what have you been doing? And Jerry's like, I'm a comedian. He's like, you do a lot of that, like, did you ever notice a lot of that, like, low, like, and he's basically mocking the style of stand-up that Jerry does. That was pretty awesome.
A lot of guys are doing that nowadays. Yeah. Jerry says, boy, you really went bald there, didn't you? Oh, what a great show that became.
Mhm.
What a great show it wasn't at episode 1, which I'm sure is the reason it was suggested.
Okay, wait, hang on. The Chinese.
It wasn't like.
Go ahead,
It
Ben.
wasn't an extremely awful TV show. Like, I feel like it was a very slow-paced and kind of awkward version of something that could clearly become good.
Okay.
Like, I didn't watch this and wonder how they could have picked it up. I feel like it's completely reasonable for somebody to have watched that at the time and seen a lot of potential there.
Oh, yeah, but I think
the
the potential that it may have had that you're talking about, Ben, is not the potential that then came out in the series. Like, when the series became
Right.
like iconic and wonderful and people loved it, it was not because it was doing whatever this episode was doing well. Because it was doing something very different than this episode was doing.
But in that it was having episodes with multiple plots that interact in neat ways,
I mean, but I don't even
which
know if
was kind of the opposite of this episode.
I wouldn't even count the Chinese episode as like multiple plots interacting, because it is just the
Well,
four.
no, they don't all do that.
No, I'm just saying that like that's an episode that's doing that's doing what Seinfeld does really well, which is like George's issue in that episode is that he had to leave. He was during foreplay he like departed because he had to use the bathroom, and her bathroom in her apartment was too close to the bedroom, so he just said goodbye and went home. Like, there's a specificity. I think that's a large part of what's missing in this first episode. There's a specificity to the humor later, where it's like, yeah, that's a very like specific issue for someone to have, rather than like, oh, you can't tell if this person is sort of into you or not. Like, that's, I don't know, it's just too generic in the. Anyway.
No, things like the arguments about the dryer. have the feel that Seinfeld later develops.
Speaking of that scene,
In the laundromat.
in the laundromat,
Where Jerry's wearing a baseball uniform, right?
yes, the way it's performed is like a stand-up routine with two people in the room, right? And
Yeah.
there's this weird incidental character interaction where, like, you know, they're talking so loudly that all the characters, all the other, you know, background characters must hear what they're saying, right? So George, like, talks to some woman and he's like trying to get her support for his side of the argument.
Yeah, and like she kind of nods briefly and then turns
Right.
back to her laundry.
That kind of stuff never happens in later episodes. It's such a weird, like, they weren't just trying to adapt, like, you know, where does Jerry get his stand-up material? It felt like they were trying to perform a sitcom as stand-up, you know, in the same sort of style that you would perform on stage.
You know
And
what
that
else
scene-
feels that way? The Louis C.K. show that was before the one that everybody loves now, Lucky Louie, has a very similar, like, this is a performance of a sitcom-y stand-up thing. Like, and it is literally, like, jokes from his stand-up are just being, like, performed minimally to the extent that is required for them to be, like, a thing happening in a sitcom. But it's still, like, he might as well have a microphone and be standing on stage.
Yeah.
I thought the first scene where George is questioning Jerry and the delivery of his assessment of his situation is that he's written no in giant letters on a pad and then he turns it over. I thought that was actually a really good delivery of the joke. Like,
Yeah, where he's written out that prediction while he's asking Claire, the waitress, to weigh in on whether this woman is into Jerry.
Oh, I'd have to say no.
All right, so Matt, did we hit on why you were suggesting this?
to be perfectly honest, this was just kind of a bullshit suggestion that I came up with at the very last second because I didn't think you and Barry would show up. It's like, wow, we're really going to have to fill some time.
Can I recommend, in the future, suggest better episodes of Seinfeld?
Well,
Luce, you can't recommend that, but you can suggest it.
My suggestion for next time is that everybody suggests good
but
episodes of Seinfeld.
the reason for it is because I know that Seinfeld is notoriously unfunny at the beginning, and I actually hadn't watched the first episode for a long time. So it was partly, you know, so I could refresh my own memory of it. And yeah, it's so vastly different from the show that it became famous for being, you know.
I'll tell you what, though, I'd rather watch the first episode than the last episode.
That
Well,
seems
they both have the same bit about the button on George's shirt.
Yeah. That works better in the last episode, but it's the only thing that works in the last episode.
I want to, like, if I had to watch an episode of Seinfeld that is not, like, exceptionally good, but I was going to watch it, I would watch the one where they go to Florida, and Elaine says Stella, like, 30 times because she's on backfill. Meet Jerry's Uncle Stella, and she just keeps shouting it, like, from Streetcar. That's really funny, even though it's not, like, specifically Seinfeld humor. It's just really funny for her to just go, Stella, over and over again.
All right, we should probably wrap
well,
this one up. We're
well,
just
there's-
talking
there's
about
actually-
Seinfeld. We kind of
Yeah.
just have been talking about Seinfeld for like 20 minutes.
Well,
Alright,
there's
let's-
actually something I
I'm
learned about this episode specifically in the course of Kramer. You know, there's that bit where Kessler has the dog who comes in and jumps on George.
Yeah.
Turns out the reason for that was that in the original script, one of Jerry's stand-up bits in this was a bit about dogs, but the network wanted them to tie that into the plot of the episode, since it wasn't at all to begin with. So they added a scene where Kramer has this dog. But then they ended up taking out that stand-up bit and putting in another thing about women and their crazy signals, so that the dog scene just doesn't really have anything to do with anything.
Oh, he's getting a drink of water. I liked when Kramer took those pieces of bread out of his pocket. That was
Yes.
It's like, yeah, that seems normal.
All right, I think it's time.
From separate pockets. He has one bread on each side.
Yeah.
Okay, so thumb time. Barry,
I'm gonna abstain on this one.
courteously or?
Courteously.
All right, Benjamin.
All right, I'm going to give it a thumbs down. I enjoyed watching this and seeing what Seinfeld was like at the beginning. That was an interesting experience, but I'm not sure I would refer back to this for anything in particular.
What if you needed to explain how women, it's like really hard to read women's signals? Would you refer back to it for that purpose?
Honestly, I don't think it's even the best example of that.
All right.
You know, a good example of that would be the Fountainhead.
I might refer back to this episode as an example of male comedians not understanding periods.
All right, Vincent.
I'd give it a thumbs up, but I think it's kind of a cheat suggestion in there. I mean, it's like if you suggested Hamlet or something like that. Like, it's something that's already so much part of all our
Right.
content.
We'll find something in there.
I actually disagree with you on that, Vincent. I'm going to give it a thumbs up, and I think it's less cheating than that because I think a lot of people are not completists about Seinfeld. Like most of the Seinfeld that I saw before I went through and watched the entire series in order was just like, I was trying to watch The Simpsons, and Seinfeld was on right after The Simpsons, and so I just caught a bunch of it in random order. And so I think a lot of people, because they don't rerun the first season episodes practically ever. So I think a lot of people actually have no idea that is what it started as.
I don't know. I know I've seen this episode in syndication.
I'm not saying they don't ever. I'm just saying it's you're much more likely to see episodes from
A better one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. So that's abstain. Oh, Ben, you gave it a thumbs down already?
I did.
Man, this is anticlimactic. Matt, what's your vote?
I'm going to give myself a thumbs down because my heart really wasn't in the suggestion. I just did it to fill time, which we actually never needed to do.
No.
It's not like a minimum. We don't have to fill air. We could end at any time.
I know.
I think our Seinfeld discussion was pretty good.
Well, the discussion was pretty good, but I mean,
Hang on, guys. I need to go to
I
bed.
had to retroactively come up with a reason for suggesting it while you guys were having a conversation.
We've
we've
all
all
done that.
Oh yeah, no, Matt. The trick there is you just say whatever Vincent said sounds good. That's my trick.
All right.
It sort of got onto why I suggested this.
I think there are probably better examples of shows that started out vastly different than the show that they became famous for.
Well, yeah, look at the news radio pilot, for example.
False. That's
No,
fairly
it's completely
consistent.
different.
All right. Anyway, time for new suggestions.
All right.
Vincent's suggestion is carrying over, right? So the tradition is that Vincent does not make a new suggestion tonight.
Yes.
Sorry that we deprived you of a new suggestion, Vincent.
All right, I'll have one for next week.
Okay.
If he has one in his head, I will yield my suggestion, but he has two.
Vincent, do you want to do that?
We could do that because the suggestion I had was kind of a weird one. A kind of a weird thing is kind of reversal on the usual thing. What I wanted to do was suggest a concept that I want to be able to refer to, but that I don't have a work to reference as the source. So I was going to get
try and figure out a work for this concept. Is that the idea?
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
I
I
wanted
like
to get
that.
the concept and see if people can come up with a work that embodies it. So I went out to the movies tonight and I saw the movie The Judge. And it features this character, the Judge, who's a real two-dimensional character. Like there's not a lot of.
It's not a 3D movie.
Yeah, it was just flat on the screen. But even beyond that, even personality-wise, he didn't show a lot of depth. And but I think that made him a more interesting character. The fact that he kind of had this very simplistic ethic, I guess, that governed all the decisions he made in his life. His life was fairly predictable. What decisions he would make, what he would do, based on, I don't know, his moral outlook or whatever. He was not a very complex character, although he was in a complicated situation. But anyways, it got me thinking. I generally think that two-dimensional characters, when someone says characters are two-dimensional or they're not deep or whatever, it's always used as an insult. It's a bad thing. But really, I think those are generally the most interesting characters to me. I think the characters become less interesting the more you round them out and make them like real people with conflicting interests and blah, 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 blah. I kind of like the archetypal whatever. So my thing was examples of works where the two-dimensionality of a character strengthens the interest of the character, where the character is more interesting or better because of their lack of depth or complication in motives.
Okay, this isn't about making the work better. It's about making the character better.
Yes. I mean, I don't know that those are completely independent things, but...
Right. But you're looking for the inverse of Hamlet, basically.
In
the sense that, I mean, we can disagree about Hamlet, but like in the sense that like the thing that people always talk about with Hamlet is that like there's such nuance and complexity to the character, and like is he crazy? Is he pretending to be crazy? You know, all this stuff. And you want like, oh, this character is a very black and white character, and that's what's making them good.
Yes.
You want us to try and figure out. You are suggesting that we figure out. Such
right, and this is not just a good two-dimensional character, but a character who is good because of being two-dimensional.
Right, and not only that, but the one that we should reference. If we wanted to reference that idea, we should describe this. Well, this character is like so and so, to mean a very good character that's two-dimensional.
All right.
Okay. All right.
North Carolina yields to South Carolina.
Matt, you have a suggestion.
I do. The YouTube channel of Vince Collins, he's an animator. He did the animation Malice in Wonderland, but he, as an old man, now does a lot of 3D animations. And I'm suggesting it as an example of an artist whose vision far exceeds his skill.
Well, you're not supposed to tell us why you're suggesting it yet. We're supposed to figure that out.
Oh, well.
All right.
Okay, Ben?
All right, so my suggestion, our next episode is going to be SuggestCast number 20, and for this, I want you all to look over the past suggestions we've had on SuggestCast, and so to evaluate how well we're doing at our purpose, I'd like you to see if you can pick out ones that you have in fact referred back to after they were suggested. Like which of these things that may have been useful examples as shared cultural whatevers, which of them have you actually used in that way?
Ben, can you just paste somewhere, like in a paste bin or something, the list of all the suggestions?
It's all in the YouTube descriptions.
Yeah, I don't want to go to 20 different YouTube videos or whatever.
19. Well, 21, really.
Okay. Can you just put them all in the thing?
Yeah, I'll compile that in the next couple days, but
awesome.
You might want to get started before I do that.
No, probably not.
Okay.
I am going to suggest the episode Der Fleiderhaus of the Judge John Hodgman podcast. I want to be clear. I think the episode is enjoyable, but the thing that I am suggesting, I don't know how specific am I supposed to be. It's not about the content so much as some of the personalities involved. So I enjoy the content, but like what you should be attending to is the personalities, if that makes sense.
It might.
Okay. Your Fleiderhaus.
The Fleiderhaus, episode number 54.
Yeah. It's about a house that has bats in it.
Alright, so that's 4 suggestions for next time.
Plus the carryover.
Plus the carryover.
Another big episode next week.
Now it's time for the guy to come in with a letter from George Washington and sing a sad song about, how many people die in Revolutionary Wars. And then we're out of here.
All right.
Mother, hey, mother, look sharp.
That is, in fact, the song I was thinking of. I love it. All right, take us off the air, Ben.
Alright, thanks for watching. And here we are.
Ben, take us off the air.
What?
Okay.